Welcome back to Same Bright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this class, I'll be teaching you how to make a perfect fitted palazzo pant or trouser with side pockets, with side zipper, with fitted band. You can see how the back palazzo is looking well fitted. You can see the grain lines, you can see the side pockets, you can see the fitted band, you can see the zipper on the side. Okay, so you have a lot to learn in this class. Okay, so if this is what you want to learn in this class, I will advise you to stay tuned to the end of this tutorial to learn. Thank you. So to begin this tutorial, we are going to first make our border lines. So I just want to take my time to show you what to do. So from the beginning of my paper, I'll come down by 3 inches. So we are going to draft the back palazzo pattern. So that's what we are going to draft first. So from here you come down by 3 inches, and from the outer paper you come in by 1 inch. So this 1 inch is serving as my border line. So I make my border line, as you can see, and I close up the box with the 3 inches. So this border line, I'll run it all the way to the hem. So next is to start taking your vertical measurement. So here is the waistline for the trouser, and I'll take my hip measurements. I'll take my crouch measurement. So my crouch measurement is 10 inches. So there are so many ways to take your crouch measurement. You can use your hip divide by 4 to have your crouch. So your hip, your crouch, your knee. My knee measurement, actual measurement for this trouser is 23. And the hem for this trouser, that is the hem of this trouser that is the full length is 41. But because this is a palazzo trouser, I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. Okay, when you wear your heel will be taking about 2.5 inches, and I'll use 1.5 to hem. So that's why I added 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. So these lines I made, to have a straight line, I'll go back again with them. You can see I'm just marking them again. So at the end of the day, I'll be able to create my lines. So I'll just create my straight lines right now, following the points this way. So now I'm done with taking my measurements. So this is my crouch line, this is my hip line. Okay, this is the waistline, this is the knee line, and this is the full length, normal full length, and I added for the palazzo. So the first thing we want to do is to take our hip measurement divide by 4. My hip measurement divide by 4. The hip I'm working with is 36. 36 divide by 4. I'll first divide by 2. I have 18, then divide by another 2. I have 9 inches. So I'll mark my 9 inches. So once you mark your 9 inches, add an ease to it. I'm adding 0.25 ease, which is 1 inch ease all around. Okay, so once I've done that, I'll come over to my waist. I'm working with waist 26. Divide by 4 will give me, divide by 4 will give me 6.5. So for this, I'm not adding any ease because I need my waist to be firm. So now on this line, I'll go up by 2 inches. So I'll go up by 2 inches. I'll measure that 2 inches on this line. So note that my hip is 6.5 and I came up by 2 inches. So the next thing I will do is to connect this 2 inches line from here to here. 2 inches, I'll connect it from there to that ease I added, and I'll allow it to touch the crouch line. so anywhere it touches the crouch line. So from this crouch right now, I'm going to measure for my crouch line. So to take the crouch measurement, you are going to make use of what you have as your crouch measurement. So my hip measurement. So my hip measurement is 36. I'll add 1 inch of ease, which is that 0.25 I added here, because 1 divided by 4 will give us a quarter. That's what I added for ease. So I'll add it here. I'll have a total of 37. So this will give me 37 inches as the new hip. So this 37 inches now, I will divide it by, for the back, we are working on the back. So when working on the back, you divide by 12. So 37 divided by 12, my calculation gives me 3 inches, so, or 3.1. So I'll just neglect that 3.3 inches or 3.1. So from here, from this crouch line, I'll measure 3, that what I calculated here, 3.1. okay. So from here I have 3.1. So at this 3.1 right now, I'll step down from that point. Because I'm making a palazzo, I'll just step down from that point by 0.5. So I'll step down by 0.5, and I'm going to connect what I have from here to this line to form the curve. So what I usually do is from here to here, I'll just divide, get the midpoint, then from there I'll come down by 0.5. So I'll just mark a straight line. I'll make a straight line and then sit my ruler. So I'll sit my pattern ruler. So you can sit it anyhow you want. You can use the smaller one, you can use the bigger one. So the most important thing is to ensure that it touches this line and this line, as you can see, to form that crouch line. So I want to go over to the waistline once again. So the waist measurement I got here was 6.5. I'll keep my ruler this way and mark that 6.5 anywhere it touches this line. So that is where it touches my line. So I'll now come over with my ruler. From here I'll mark to that point. So once I've done that, next I'll just go over and do this. Can you see? Can you see? So I connected it to the hip, to the waistline. So that is that. And the next thing we want to do now is to form the grain line of this trouser. So in forming the grain line, this is how you go about it. From this point of our crouch, I'm going to take everything I have here, and then I will do what? I'll find the mid line. So this is the midline. So it's easy for us to find the midline. So whatever you have from here right now to here, I'll transfer it to here. So here I got 6.5. So I'll come over to the knee line. I'll mark 6.5. I'll come over to my full length line. I'll mark 6.5. I'll come over to the extension. I'll mark 6.5. So if I have done that, I'll just do what? Form my grain line. The grain line is the center line of your trouser. So I'll just form that center line. Have you seen? So once I'm done with this right now, what I have from here to here now, because I'm making a palazzo trouser, I'll just take the measurement of what I have from here to the end of this line. I have 6.5. I'll take that 6.5 to this line. I'll take that same 6.5 to this line. I'll take that same 6.5 to this line. It's a palazzo trouser, so I'll just run a straight line all the way, because the palazzo is just a very free trouser, as you can see. So once I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to do from this point, I'll come down again by 1/2 inch. Can you see? Because it doesn't need to be tight on you. So that's why I step down from here to here 1/2 inch, and from here I'll go in front by 3/4. Can you see? So all of this you have to impute it to have a fitted palazzo. So from here now I'll just, to make this easy, this is my new line. Can you see? Instead of this line, we are working with this line, and it gets to this point. So I'll sit my pattern ruler now. You can see how I'm sitting it. Now I'm sitting it to touch, instead of this line, it's touching the new palazzo line. So I'll just go ahead and bring in my ruler. This is my, we call it a hip curve. So you need your hip curve, so you can see how I'm trying to position it. So from that point, and that is your palazzo trouser for you. So you can see it's as simple as this. So we have that palazzo trouser, because the palazzo trouser is actually a free trouser. So if it's a pencil trouser, we'll be working on the knee and working on the hem. But since it's a palazzo trouser, this is how to go about it. So this trouser, I did not put any dart for it because I don't want a dart. It's going to be have a side zip. Okay, it's going to have a side zip, and it's going to have a band. So since it's going to have a band, and I'm going to cut out a 2 inches band separately. So from this part of my waist now, I'm going to mark out that 2 inches. Can you see how I place my tape? So I just follow this line from here to here and do what? So this becomes that band. Okay, so although we are going to cut a straight band for it, but the main palazzo now, we are going to cut it from this line. If you are making a fitted band with it, you can take what you have here, but because I'm joining a straight band to it, so I don't want to bother, tracing it out. So you can see how the palazzo trouser looks like. So I'm going to cut it now. So I've cut out my trouser, and I just want to show you what I did. So like I said, I have to step down by 2 inches and cut, because we have a band we are going to attach. So this is it, and this is what our palazzo back piece trouser looks like. So I'm going to cut the front piece now for you to see. I'm going to start up the drafting of the front palazzo trouser. So this is the front palazzo trouser, and you have to make a border line of 4 inches from end to end, 4 inches, and from the upper part 3 inches. That is for the front palazzo. So now this is my waistline, which we are going to draft now. So from this waistline, as you can see, I'll place my tape. I'm going to mark my hip length. I'll mark my crouch length. I'm going to mark my knee line, my full length line, just like we did in the back pattern. Then I'll add 4 inches for the palazzo because of the heel. So I'll just go ahead and do what? Run my lines. I'll just rule my lines. All right, so this becomes my hip, this is my crouch. So like I said, you can use your hip circumference divided by 4 to get the length of your crouch from here. So whatever thing you have, measure from here to here. Okay, because it's a palazzo, you can step down by 1 inch. Like the hip I'm working with is 36 divided by 4 is 9 inches. 36 divided by 4 gave me 9 inches. So this is my 9 inches. Because it's a palazzo, that's why I step down by 10 inches to get my crouch. Okay, so but on a normal trouser, it's just your hip divided by 4. All right, so this is my knee position. This is my knee position. So I'll now go ahead and mark on my hip line that my hip divided by 4 is 9 inches. I'll mark. I'll add an ease of 0.25 if you remember. So I'll come over to my waist. I'm going to take my waist, but before I take my waist, for a perfect fit from the center front line, this is my center front of my trouser, I like to go in by 0.25. So when I go in by 0.25 this way, I'll just slant it to my crouch line this way. I'll just make a slant line. You can see that line. So now I will now take my measurement of my waist. My waist is 26. Divide by, I'm starting from this line, divide by 4 is 6.5. So I'll just mark my 6.5. So once I've marked my 6.5, I'm not putting any dart to this front dress. I'm not using that. So if you're using that, just add 1 inch of your dart. So I will extend this by 0.5 for a perfect fit. I will extend it by 0.5, and I'll place my pattern curve ruler this way and flush it to that line. Can you see? Now I'll come over to the crouch. I'll transfer. I'm sorry about that. I'm supposed to connect this to my ease. Please connect it to your ease. Okay, please connect it to your ease. So now I'll transfer what I have here on my hip, which is 9.25. I'll take it 9.25, a quarter, and I'll mark it at this point. So once I've marked it at this point, I'll leave it at that. Okay, so from this line now, that is where I'm going to extend. This extension we have here is for the crouch extension. So for this crouch extension, you are going to do hip plus 1 like we did before. I will have 37. Then this 37, now you are going to divide 37, the result, which is 37, divide by 24 for the front, because the crouch is smaller. Okay, the crouch for the front is shorter. So if I divide 37 by 24, I have 1.5. So whatever your hip is, add it 1, divide by 24, whatever you have, extend it by that line. So me, I'll extend mine by the 1.5. So from here I'll mark 1.5. So you can see I've marked 1.5 at this point, and at this 1.5 I'll place my ruler this way. At this 1.5 I'll also come up by another 1.5. So I'll be able to create that curve. So you can see the curve has to pass from here to here for the front crouch. So now everything we have from here to this point, to that crouch, that line, can you see? I'm going to divide it and get the midpoint. So I will divide it and have my midpoint. So this is where I have my midpoint. So now I'm going to mark this measurement. This measurement I have from here to here, 5.5. Once I've marked this 1.5 right now, so the next thing I'm going to do is to pick up this 1.5 and come on this line and mark 1.5. I'll come back on this line and mark 1.5. So this line will now be, everything I have here will be equal, a sort of, okay? So I will just extend these lines by 1.5. I'll just extend them by the 1.5. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm trying to form the grain line. So I've already divided my grain line. So from here I have 5.5. I'll come from this 1.5 and mark 5.5. I'll come from this 1.5 here. I'll mark 5.5. So I will be able to do what? Form my grain line. So this is my grain line for the front trouser. This is my grain line for the front trouser. So now the next thing I'm going to do, since I've taken what I have from here, 5.5, and it's also the same 5.5, I'll come back here, mark the same 5.5, because we are working on a palazzo trouser. 5.5. So our aim is to form a straight line to that point. So I'll just form a straight line to that point. Can you see? Now I'll form a straight line to that point, like that, to this point. So just have a straight line to the end. So now the next thing we are going to do is to also connect our lines, our straight line. Remember, is a palazzo. the 1.5 I marked, I'll connect it in the front part. So coming over to the palazzo now, I'll come down from this point by half an inch and I'll come out by 0.75. so that was what we did in the front. So I'm going to replace my ruler again and form my new crouch line for the palazzo. So this is the new crouch line for the palazzo for the front. So I'll just go ahead and do what, use my pattern ruler and curve it in what, as you can see. Okay, so while you are curving it, try and make sure it follows the straight line before it curves. So it's like I went too much, and that is why I'm recreating it. So that is the right line. So we are done with this palazzo, and the next is to do what, take the waist to 2 inches, which I told you that we are going to attach a straight band. Okay, so if you want a curvy band to it, just use this band and create your fitted bands. Okay, so that is it, and this I'm going to cut it off. All right, so this is 2 inches. When I'm cutting, I'll cut off here because I'll have a band attached to it. So the next we want to do now is to create the pockets. So I'm going to have a pocket in here. So my pocket from here is standard at 1.5 and is standard on the length line with 6 inches or 6.5. So I'll do 6.5. So I'll connect that 1.5 from here to the 6.5, from here to here. That will serve as the pocket. So now we need to create this pocket. You know how the pocket goes. So to create this pocket, I'll just find the midline of what I have right here. So this is the midpoint. So from here to this other line, I have 3 inches. I'll come over to the crouch. I'll make 3 inches. And I'm going to rule a straight line for my pockets. And I'll allow it to do what? To terminate on my crouch. So once I've done that, I will now come over and shape or give a shape to my pocket. You see some pockets, it has shape. So this is what I'm going to do to form the shape of the pocket. So this becomes my pocket now. I'm going to place my pepper to trace this pocket out. So right now I'm tracing the pocket, as you can see right away. So now I've cut out my pockets right now. So automatically, if you see this pocket, this is it. It matches this way. And here is the pocket. Can you see? That's where we'll put our hand. So that's why I told you have to trace the two. So you trace this one and this one. Then you trace this one and this one. And that becomes that for you. So you can see what we traced out for our pocket. So now I'm going to cut out the trouser. The trouser does not have any zip at the fly. It has a zipper on the side. So I'm cutting the trouser right now. So if I'm cutting the front trouser, I will stop here and cut through the pocket. Take note. Can you see? We'll cut through the pockets. Okay, so that is it. We'll cut through the pocket because that is the front trouser. So the pocket cover will now take care of this, the one we drafted. So I'll just come here and cut out the 2 inches because we are making a band to this palazzo. So I just go ahead and cut my trouser from here. So I'll come over here and then go through that line I came in. So this becomes our trouser pattern right now for the palazzo for the back, as you can see. So I'm going to cut this on my fabric right now. I'm going to cut all my pattern pieces. So this is what we have, everything on our pattern. Can you see? So I'm going to cut all my pattern pieces now. Two pieces of this. That's what I'm going to cut. All right, so this is the fabric I'm using for this palazzo trouser. Is a crepe fabric and it's 2 yards of it. So I'll just go ahead and use these 2 yards to cut out my. So now I've added my seam allowances around the palazzo trouser. So you can see the front palazzo and you can see the back palazzo. I added 0.5 inch, 0.5 inch all around my trouser block. So right now I'm going to go over to the machine. We'll start by sewing the pocket first, then we'll join the whole trouser and the zipper. All right, so we are done with the cutting of the trouser. So the next thing is to cut the pocket before we begin to sew. So for this pocket number 2, you can see I added 0.5 inch all around. This one is easy, but you see this one is not as easy as you think, because there are some technicalities to this which is very important you need to note. So the first thing you do is just from this point rule a straight line, and from this point rule a horizontal line. So we are going to mark our 1/2 inch from here to here. Okay, so this fabric actually wobbles, so I'm adding my seam allowance now. Can you see? I've added on that point. Then for this, I'll come from here to here. I'll add my seam allowance of 1/2 inch, and I'll also rule a perpendicular line to this point that matches to this point. So that's how I usually create it. So once you have gotten this line, the next you will do is to step up from there by 1/2 inch. So I'll step up from there by 1/2 inch, then I'll connect from that line to this line. So now I'm going to connect what I have from this line to this line. Okay, I'll connect from here to this line. So this fabric is actually wobbling a lot. So I will now cut my 1/2 inch to this line. You go in by another 1/2 inch, then you add your seam allowance, then you come up by 1/2 inch. So if you go about it this way, automatically you have this exact effect. So this exact effect is very important. This line and this line, very important. That's why I'm showing you. So what I will do now is to come back with my front pattern. So this is my front pattern. So I've already taken off my pattern. So make sure you arrange it properly before you do what I. All right, so this aspect of this tutorial is very important, and that's why I'm taking my time. So you see that effect I created right there. I'm going to bring it to because that is exactly how I'm supposed to cut this. So I will just align it. Can you see? You can see when you align it, you have that excess. So make sure you have that excess. So I'll pin it and cut it. So now I've secured it and I'm cutting it very carefully. Okay, so you have to cut it very, very carefully. So making sure everything aligns. So you can see this is the shape you are supposed to have to sew these pockets very appropriately. So now we'll go over to the machine. We'll start from the front. So I'm going to sew my front pockets, so you can see what I have for the both of them. So I'll go ahead and identify the back and the front. So make sure you have, because this fabric, there's a way it looks, so you might not really know which part is back and front. So I'll just use here as my back. So I'll come with my pocket. I'll match my pockets. So I'm matching it right side to right side. So where I have is right side. So I'll match it right side to right side, and I'm going to stitch and top stitch. So I'll pin it, I'll go to my machine, stitch and top stitch. So I'll do that now. Then for this, I'll also match it right side to right side. So make sure you are sewing the right side to the right side. So I will stitch and bring it back now for the next stage. So now you can see I'm done sewing, and you can see what I have at that point. So at this junction, I'll put a notch, and at this junction I'll put a notch. So that will make it easy for me to flip to this part and top stitch. So I'll go and top stitch now. So now I'm done with my pocket and my top stitching, and I've given it a good press, as you can see right there. I placed my hemming gum inside, so I will be able to have a neat finishing. Okay, so I did the same for this as well, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do is to come over with my pocket, the outer one. So this outer pocket you are seeing right here, we'll flip this to this side and pick up this. We are picking it up to match up with this rounded part and matching up. Okay, so if it matches up, you can see what we have. So you can decide to go ahead and sew and weave. You can decide to do this. See what I'm doing. You can decide to do this, pick it from here and sew, and that is the one I'm going to do. So I'll just go over to the machine and sew it inwards. Then when I sew it inwards, I'll come back and sew it outward. Okay, so that becomes our French seam pattern. So I'll do that now. I believe you saw what I did. I'll just pick a quarter of an inch. Then when I come, I'll sew on top of it, so I don't need to go and start weaving the pocket. So I'm done sewing in the first one. So the next I will do is to tuck it in to the right side like this. So when you tuck it in like this to the right side, I'll pick it up again and now sew it on another quarter. Okay, so everything lays nice and flat and neat. So it is neat this way than waiting to go and serge it. So whichever works for you, you can go ahead and do that. So now you can see I have a neat finishing outside the trouser. So I'll just go ahead and do this. I'll pin this part because I'm going to run a stitch from this point to this point to hold it on. I'll also pin this part, so make sure it relaxes before you pin. Okay, so I'm making sure everything relaxes the normal way. So I'll go over to the machine, I run a stretch stitch, I'll come here and run another stretch stitch. So at the end of the day, you can see our pockets. All right, so we are done with the pockets, as you can see. So that's the pockets for both sides. Can you see that? So the next thing we are going to do, I've already stitched to hold it on. Okay, although I secured with my pin before I stitched by the side. So the next thing we are going to do now is to lay them right side to right side. So I'll just go ahead and sew from here to the crouch line. So I'm done sewing the crotch for front and back right now. So right now I'm measuring the zipper space for the side. So now I'm done sewing all the sides, leaving the zipper allowance, and this part I closed it up to the edge. So before we sew the zip, we are going to match up the crouch area with the crouch points. So I love to always sew from this midpoint from here to here, so I'll do that now. I've also sewn my zipper by the dress, so you can see that, and we still have our pocket. So you can actually use an invisible zip for this zip, okay, but this is what I have for now for this tutorial. So the next thing we want to do is to take the measurement of what we have around here to construct our band. So if you look at this, you can see it has somewhat a V shape for the back because of how it's being cut. So I'll just take the measurement now before we cut our band. That is what we are going to use to sew into this part. So I'll just measure round it this way. Can you see? So here I have 32. So this 32, I'm going to add 2 inches to it. If I have an excess, I'll cut. So I'm cutting my fabric at 34. So 34 now, divide by 2. If I divide 34 by 2, I have about 17. Okay. So now I'm going to cut my fabric on bias. I'm using paper because I don't have much of that fabric. So to fold your fabric on bias, this is what I do. You can see my paper. I'll pick up this part of the paper and I'll fold this way. Can you see? So I folded it like a triangle. I believe you are seeing what I'm doing, like a triangle. So once you have folded it like a triangle, the next you do is to place your tape at this tip, at this point, and measure down at 17. You measure at 17. At 17. So if you have measured at 17, you have the radius. So the band I'm working with is 2 inches band. So I'll measure my 2 inches band. When cutting, I'll add my seam allowance. So I'll just measure my 2 inches band. So first, I'll just go ahead and do this. So I'm going to take the measurement of that 17 inches again on the down part of this on the down part of this curve, and I'll start that 17 from here. Whatever I have here, I'll cut it off. So from here, I'll measure. Can you see? I'll keep measuring. So I don't even have enough paper to make up the 17 inches. So I'll quickly add paper from here to here now to make up that 17 inches before I cut. I'll go ahead and add up, measure again, okay, because I've added up my paper for on both sides. So I'll just measure again to get that 17 inches. So here I have 15 and 17 inches falls at this point. So I'll just go ahead and do what, and square this part, and that will be my band. So I'll quickly cut out what I have here. I added 2 paper, as you can see. So that is what you have as your band. So this is going to be the center back. So I'll just place a notch for it on the center back. So if I open it up now, you can see it will fit into that band. Can you see this shape? so it will fit into that band very appropriately. So I have notched. So this is what I'm going to place on my fabric now, and I'll cut 2 times of it. Okay, cut 2 times of it, stitch close the upper part, and the down parts I'll leave it open. All right, so now I'm done with the band, and you can see I've notched the center back. So because the zip is at the side, you need to do this. Okay, this is the center back. I'll place this notch at the center back this way, and I'll align it to this where the zipper ends. Okay, so this is where the zipper ends, so make sure you align it very appropriately. So here we have the zipper end. I'll do what? I'm going to mark. So from here, which is the center back, I'm going to do this, mark, make a mark here. So this is my mark, so I'll take that mark because I'm going to cut what I have here off. So I'll bring it together now, and I'm going to match here and here. This should be the center front, but because there's no zip at the center front, I have to put this together. I believe you understand what I'm doing here. I have to do what? Put this together. So once you have put this together, that becomes the center front. I will now cut here, which is the zipper allowance. So your band is going to have this shape now. Can you see? That's the kind of shape we are going to cut. So I'm going to add a little more 1 inch for the overlap of the button, and a little 1 inch when I cut. So let me stay and cut. So I'm done cutting my band. So it followed the shape of the pepper, and I added 0.5 inch seam allowance. So you can see the notch I made on the center back. So make sure you have this notch to show the center back, because this side will go to the side and this will go to the side. So I added 1 inch like I said. So the next thing I'm going to do is to turn this to the right side. So you can also hairstay. I just placed my notch at that center back. So I'll just flip this to this way. I'm going to sew the upper part of it from end to end. So I'm going to ensure I have my notch here. Okay. So I will sew the upper part and top stitch. Then the lower parts we are going to sew it into the trouser. I've joined the upper part and I've top stitched also. I top stitch on the part of the flipping the seams on the part of the lining. So now I'm going to turn this to the front, because I'm going to the ironing table now. So I'll go over to the ironing table and iron. Can you see? So I'll just iron this part. So I'll turn, then go over to the ironing table and iron. So once I iron, I'll bring it back now to sew into the trouser. Ironing it, and this is how neat it looks like. Can you see? So I would prefer you even use a matching satin fabric, so to give it that rigidity, weight, a little weight. So can you see? So with the top stitching at that point, it came out very well. So we are going to place the notch part at the center back now. So this is my trouser. This is the side where I have the zipper. So this is the notch for the center back. So can you see my center back? You can see it, that is where we have that V shape. So I'll now go ahead and place this. Can you see? So I'll place I'm placing it this way. The lining, I'll first sew all the lining from end to end. So I'll first of all secure with my pin. Then I'm going to sew from here to here on the lining alone, and from here to the end. So let me do that. All right, people, so I'm done sewing the lining, can you see? And I've taken it all around. Can you see how I placed it? Okay, so now the extension I added 1 inch, 1 inch. So for this 1 inch, I've already closed it up, and this one I cut it out because I'm going to turn it this way. This is how I'm going to turn it. I'll match this point to this point, and I'm going to sew a straight line this way. I don't need this band. I'm going to cut it off. So I'll go to my machine now, and I'll sew straight this way. Right, so this is what I actually mean. So you can see I stitch straight to the point of the zipper. So I'll just trim it what I have there, just adding 0.5 inch. So at the end of the day, I'm going to also turn this the way I turned the other. Can you see? So when you turn it, you will have it exactly at that point. So I'll now go ahead and do what? And start folding 0.5 inch. So each 0.5 inch I fold, I'll secure with my pin this way. So your pin has to be there before we sew. So I'll keep folding it and securing my pin. So I'm securing it with my pin right now, and I'm tucking in the 0.5 inch, sewing on top of my pins, as you can see. So you really have to take it easy to sew as if you are top stitching. So I'll just fold in the